What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Cass here, and we are back with another episode of Creator Insight. And we are here with another SWW member and Ace Whistler. So we are. It's massive, guys. I was able to get Ace on after the episode with Shannon. Trust me, we'll stop milking them soon. Trust me, it'll be over.
I'm getting tired, man.
Well, next episode we got something kind of exciting planned, but we're gonna dive into some similar questions to what we did with Shannon last week, and we also have some questions from the SWW Discord that we'll dive into in a little bit. So, what you been up to?
Oh gosh, right now it's beginning of the year, so personal wise, work is starting to lay back. I actually just got over being sick. Because it always happens at the new year. It's our busiest day of the year. I get something along the end of it. Besides that, just continually working on stuff for SWW. I believe I just finished the next episode of Blitz match cards, which we'll reveal once we start getting near where that is gonna come out. But we're still working on Adrenaline 2, which that's actually almost done. So excited to kind of show people what we got going. So we're kind of getting the stokes back in the fire a little bit. The holidays are like people like me and everybody in production, we tend to get busy around the time, so that's why there's been a little bit of a lax. But we're kind of like immediately after the first, we're like, all right, we're put our feet back on the ground and start running. So that's what we're aiming to do.
Yeah, that's really how I am too, because whenever we get like breaks or stuff from college, I go full force because I gotta stockpile stuff for when I'm actually and I gotta, because if I don't, I'm gonna get piled with a bunch of different stuff, and then videos struggle to come out, and I hate when that stuff happens.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's one of the big things about content creation that nobody discusses too often is the life to content creation balance. And that's a thing where everybody's different. Everybody has to find their own. Like I usually have 2 to 3 days off a week. I usually only probably do about one day where I fully work on stuff, and then like the other 2 days I'm kind of off and on for a little bit working on stuff.
I kind of got really lucky with I have been able to fully focus on content stuff this winter break, and it's got me kind of ahead of stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and get into question number one that we I started off with. Shannon, it's gonna be the start for every one of these Creator Insight videos, and any type of wrestling thing. I think this needs to be the start with it. How did you, as the wrestling fan you've become, what is your first memory of getting into it? Like, what do you?
I was very little. I would say about 4 or 5. My biological father was a massive wrestling fan, and this is still towards the end of. It's still in the towards the end of the Attitude Era. It's not quite yet where it was WrestleMania 17, but WrestleMania 2000. He had a buddy of his that he worked with at a tow yard that would record the WWF pay-per-views and give them to him the following day. And so we would have the VHS tapes and we'd play it on the video. So we didn't grow up with like having USA Network and such. So he would plug the tape in, and I just sat there, watched WrestleMania 2000. Looking back on it, not a great WrestleMania, but you got the matches like the tag team triangle ladder match. You got the Euro Intercontinental 2 out of 3 falls hybrid that they did. You also have the terrible hardcore battle royal. So I mean that was my earliest memory, and ever since then I've been watching wrestling.
Is that the McMahon in every corner main event?
Yes, it is. It is. As a big Mick Foley fan, you understand why I'm not a great fan of that.
But that's I was sitting here because I think I remember like the poster of actually of the McMahons being like bigger than the
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
they made
bigger,
it all about the McMahons, and at the end of like, guys. Well, it's funny because like the original poster like had Jericho, and then they replaced Jericho with Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny, but like the one I like remember vividly was like the day of WrestleMania 17, because that was one we're allowed like one pay-per-view a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, all right, WrestleMania 17. And then last minute something happened and we couldn't watch it. So we had to come back and wait for the replay and just kind of sit there and wait. And it was like 10 o'clock at night waiting for the replay.
I have vivid memories. This isn't my first WrestleMania, but I have vivid memories of like of WrestleMania. The Miz and Cena one is at
27.
27. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I remember like riding bikes with my friends and all that stuff all day, and then they wanted to keep riding and stuff, and I was like, no, I gotta get home. I gotta see this movie. I gotta see this shit.
I think that was the first one I ever watched with people, because I was on an Xbox Live party, and I think I don't remember who I was watching it with, but I did remember I watched it with somebody. And back in the day where you didn't have the network or Peacock or Netflix, and you had other sites that you would go on where, you know, it's not entirely, you know, hey, you paid the money to go watch it. That's how I used to watch my wrestling pay-per-views for a while, up until the network.
When they released the WWE Network, genuinely, people made fun of it because they overpopulated like the $9.99 and all that stuff.
Oh god, yeah, they marketed the hell out of it.
But it genuinely was such a good idea for them.
Yeah, like after the first, I would say the first 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
After the first 3 months of it being up, that's when it started being good. It was just they had, you know, the issues where they didn't figure out live streaming because they were doing it in house, and so it was an issue where they're like, hey, like I remember watching WrestleMania 30, and my feed stuttered when Brock pinned Taker, and I went back and I was like, huh? I was like, what do you mean this happened? This was one of the two matches I was looking for, and no, I wasn't looking forward to the main event. I was looking forward to Cena, Wyatt, Brock, Taker. That was it.
Like, and I guess when you look at it, like, pay-per-view buys couldn't have been good at that time either.
Oh, so no, because, yeah.
Yeah, so them actually making it $9.99 and all that stuff had to shoot, like, subscriptions out of the... So they probably made more long-term.
Yeah. I remember when they had the cards where you could buy, like, 3 months subscription cards. Oh, it was like Xbox Live and PlayStation.
Yeah, they had, like, PlayStation Network, like, cards and it was, like... Yeah. Oh, man, that's... Speaking of that, that's perfect, talking about PlayStation Network and Xbox and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So, when getting into it as a wrestling fan, a big part of my wrestling fandom has been the wrestling games. Mm-hmm. So, which one would you say was your start point, your kickoff point?
So, I grew up and where I would stay with my grandparents during the week, mm-hmm. and then would go other places on weekends. Mm-hmm. So we had a Nintendo 64. Mm-hmm. The game that I started playing was WCW NWO Revenge. Okay. Because my brother was a massive WCW fan, and he still is to this day. I would start playing out with WCW NWO Revenge, and then I bought later once we'd go to GameStop back when they were still selling PS1, Nintendo 64 games and such. I'd pick up WCW NWO World Tour. Mm-hmm. But my favorite one that I grew up playing out of like the PS1 Nintendo 64 era was SmackDown 2. It got so bad to where I can't play my childhood disc anymore because it's so scratched up. So I actually bought one during the pandemic. So now I have a copy with the case with the manual intact, and I was happy with that because I also have like the strategy guide for it too. Like, I collected the strategy guides for a little bit, so I actually have that one, and I have the WCW NWO Revenge one as well.
I've seen a lot of people like go back and play some of their like childhood games. I think I might want to do that. But
and it's great. Like, I legit, when the pandemic hit, that's where I was like, all right, well, I was like, you know what? I haven't touched my Nintendo GameCube in a while, and I was like, let me build up the collection I wanted. So I got all the Tony Hawk games on the GameCube, and I got all the Mortal Kombat games on the GameCube, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then it started something where it's like, okay, now I can get this game for the PS1. I actually have a PS2 thanks to Shannon. Shannon's like, you're looking for a PS2? I was like, yeah, I am. He's like, hey, I have this one. He's like, Merry Christmas, and sent me a PS2. So I actually have a PS2. Rebuilt my PS2 collection. The last console that I got was one of my ones that I never got during my childhood that I wanted to get, which was a Sega Dreamcast. So then I build up that collection where it's got Mortal Kombat Gold, it's got Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, WWF Attitude, WWF Royal Rumble, which was based the arcade port.
yeah,
So like I love playing, like, going back, especially I had an instance where like my internet was out for 3 days because they're doing road
dude, it's
construction,
perfect
cut the
for
wire.
those moments, dude.
So I was like, yeah. So I was like, cool. I was like that. Then I always go back to play like my favorite like SVR games.
Mm-hmm.
Like 06. I'll play 06 was one of my favorites. But like my overall favorite wrestling game of all time would probably, I would say, Here Comes the Pain was really good.
I think Here Comes the Pain, to me, is something that modern day wrestling games lack a little bit. Is like modern day wrestling games are 100% more simulation, and I think that's perfectly fine.
It's great for what the times are now.
But what I think sucks for people that don't make content, like people that just buy the game and just to play the game, is I think there's very limited replay value.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm gonna be truthful. I don't really play the games. I make stuff on them. That's about it on my end. I don't play the games anymore. I just like making stuff. But if I want to play a wrestling game, I boot up the PS2. I play Shut Your Mouth. I play Here Comes the Pain. One of the big ones I'm looking into right now is there's a guy named Scott J, who's done a Shut Your Mouth revamp where it's based entirely in the Invasion era. So there's like Invasion era pay-per-views. It has the WWF brands back on there. He redid all the belts, redid all the loading screens, and so on and so forth. He found files in the game that were missing. Like there's commentary for Fully Loaded. He put Fully Loaded in the game, and did that because the pay-per-view stage in Shut Your Mouth is based off of Fully Loaded. And so he did all that, and I've been looking into that for a bit. I always look into like those like revamp remasters of stuff in the sense. There's also another guy that I watch who the GM Spectre, I believe is his YouTube channel, where he just released a WrestleMania 2000 mod, but it replaces it entirely with ECW. It's called ECW House Party.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love looking at stuff like that, where now in the modern age, it's like people are going back and like, yeah, we're just gonna mod these and call it a day.
Because see, like, if I wanted to play a wrestling game modern, I think WWE still is the option, because I played the AEW game. I don't think it's like for me.
So the AEW game, they are completely right. It is a very no mercy game, but I feel like people get blinded by nostalgia a little too much, and that was the main issue with No Mercy. Is it was fantastic for the time, but it doesn't live up to now. AEW's issue is they overloaded it so much with DLC too, and they made those packs expensive, and then they didn't really do any like significant changes to their game. Where WWE is like, as much as we bag on 2K, like I like this game, I have big issues with. mainly like creation as a guy who uses creation a lot. But like the creation suite in No Mercy is extremely limited. You make a character, you make a moveset, you make an entrance, that's it. They delivered on that aspect, but it wasn't. It's not modernized in the way that people wanted it to be, and that's where it fell flat.
With the 2K games, the biggest thing that bothers me is 2K, as far as like from the NBA standpoint, are known for their massive customization suite with like tattoos and body stuff. Mm-hmm. And it bothers me so much that you can go in WWE 2K24, go in the base game tattoos, and there's stuff from WWE 12, WWE 13, 14. Yeah. It bothers the hell out of me because then you hop on to NBA 2K24 and they've got these in-depth tattoo design.
No. And that's where, because I don't think a lot of people know, like, the engine that they use and the stuff that they use is entirely not that's what they inherited from THQ and Ukes. So they're not looking to revamp everything. Like 2K, like the NBA 2K games is something they made in-house that they worked from scratch on. So they're gonna put all their time into that. Mm-hmm. But with this, they're like, oh, we were just given this because, you know, the company went out of business. And it's like, well, there's an entirely different team that's working on that. I feel like if they can get the customization of an NBA game, hell, alone like a Madden game on how Maddens used to be customizable, mm-hmm. and such, they could do something great. Like, yeah. I would love, like, my big thing is everybody that is in production, everybody that's in like an SWW pretty much knows. I love making arenas. Mm-hmm. Give me more options.
Yes.
Stop giving me stupid limitations. Let me do stuff.
Because unless like I know y'all are on like the whole modded stuff, and unless you're like on the modded stuff, there's like 8 arena presets.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'm very glad with what they did this year, where you can move the parts around however it is. It is a great step. However, what you need more parts. And I never want to see that stupid red rectangle again. I don't care about this is how it's going to interact with mocap issues. That's where people need to find out. If they don't like the way it looks like that, then guess what? They go back in and they fix it themselves. But like, it's just like, there's some stuff where it's like, okay, they took a step forward. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, let's say next year it's like, oh, we accidentally did that, so we take a step back. But honestly, like, arena creation on this game was fun. It was difficult for me to find at first because of the depth perception, your depth perception when you're making stuff and you're moving stuff, because they changed the way that you would place the objects. So like, it messes with it. You could have one that's right over, like, right in front of you like this, and then you have something that's like several yards behind, and you're like, all right, well, where the hell did this piece go? Mm-hmm. So that's where it's like they did a good job with that. I feel like create a character needs a massive revamp.
Yes.
You need customizable body types back. Bad. Mm-hmm. You need not just that. You need where you can pretty much use any face template and then use a face texture, because this year you can only use certain face templates so you can move your eyes. So like, I've had to go back and remake people because the old template that they had, you can't move their eyes to align it with the face texture. And so that's where that's an issue. They need to fix that. I feel like create an entrance, you should be able to customize your lighting better. Like, they had a great like idea, but I feel like you should go, okay, this is the kind of lighting I want. Okay, what's the color that I want this lighting to be? Okay, this is what the color I want. I feel like you should be able to do that in easy entrances too. Where you go, okay, I like this, but I want this lighting instead. Mm-hmm. That should be easy to do. But I feel like they have the tools at their disposal It's just it's not what they're focusing on. Unfortunately, the thing that they focus on is that my faction. They focus on the thing that brings them money.
And the big problem is like, I know that was one of the things that got brought up in the last episode was different like studios that could get the rights.
Yeah.
And like that's the problem when you really look into it. Any studio that's going to get to the rights to the WB game are going to be interested in a My Faction mode.
Or that's how they're going to make money. That's how they're going to make money.
Like, as big as we are into, like, the creation stuff and the universe stuff and all that stuff, it's not what... It's the same thing when you look at, like, a Madden franchise mode. There's a massive Madden franchise fan base, but because Ultimate Team makes them all this money, they're not...
That's what they look at. That's what they look at in hindsight. Is, like, the content... Like, the people like us that make shows on it, we are such a like minuscule percentile compared to the other people that buy the game. A lot of us are, but we are more of a percentile of like the we buy it every year, but that's because it's what we do. But that's where it's like, no matter what studio's gonna pick it up, there's gonna be issues. And sometimes it's better to deal with the devil that you know than the one you don't.
That's like, at least if 2K keeps it, they can keep trying to improve.
I want them to fix their online.
I've that's a wash for me. I haven't played. I don't think I've played an online match all year.
Oh, I'm not talking about like playing matches. I'm talking about their servers. Their servers are awful. I literally have to boot up my game twice so I can go get my logo. Like, I literally have to boot my game up twice. Like, the first time, and then go look, it's like, oh, unable to connect. Alright, get out, then reboot it back up, and do it that way.
Oh, I thought you were talking about, like, match servers.
No, I want them to fix their actual servers. Match servers, yeah, that will be fixed along with those.
But, like... Speaking of that, we'll segue into the next topic.
Yeah, we're even. Oh, sorry. There's that. I hate 2K portion of this podcast.
But that kind of pushes in with like people that make these like video games. You really got to think. YouTube's like a new concept, a newer concept. It's only like, and I don't think a lot of gaming companies really thought that there would be people interested. Like. Think about when they were making the SmackDown vs. Raw games.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody actually thought that somebody would be interested in making, like, a wrestling show based in a video game. I don't think people...
Yeah, and it's so weird because I started watching CAW back in 2005, 2006, and there were already people that were doing it for years at that point. Like, one that brings up good mind is, if you're not familiar, one of, like, the first colleagues to ever be on YouTube is No DQ CAW. But that was because they did it on their own website before then. But it's like, you know, their pop culture characters like Mr. Clean, Batman, the Joker, Spider-Man, Link, Mario, Luigi, so on and so forth. Ganondorf. That was like one of the first CAW leagues I watched. And like, I feel like when it came to that time where it was also like, you know, where people like the angry video game nerd, you know, came to be where they're making videos based off of, you know, it's like, hey, I'm going to talk about this video game. There was a person eventually that goes, you know, I don't like what I'm watching on TV. What if I just make it?
Yeah.
And so like, even then it was like before then too, it's like when you had action figures. You got the WWE action figures, you booked your own card and you made your own stages. I was that kid too.
Me too.
Yeah, so it's like it's always like I feel like the thing is now is they never realized how much what they do like helps that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even now, I feel like games are made to be, like, streamed. And that's what everybody kind of market towards now.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you have your free-to-play games, but they have, like, the Battle Pass grinds to it. I feel like a lot of times now they're like, all right, I know if people get eyes on the game, people will play it. Like, then you have games like Lethal Company and Fall Guys, Among Us, so on and so forth, that are made to be like, hey, I'm playing it with my friends. However, there's so many eyes that gets to see like how we interact as a group because of this game, and so on and so forth.
Like, see, that's one thing that kind of interests me of how how 2K would go around making their games like more streamable, because you got to really think like their showcase mode that has the clips from the.
Oh yeah, no.
So they
like 2K14 was the way that they should have done it again. Like
yes.
They even did it. I believe they even did it like back in 2K16 with the Austin showcase. Like it works.
The 2K15.
But they just don't want to take the time.
I stand by like when they did the DLC showcases.
Yeah.
That's the best idea that they should have kept with sticking with, is like offer like there's showcases that come out in the year, and then as DLC they release a showcase or two. I actually genuinely thought that was a good idea.
Yeah,
like
they did that up until like the issue was with after that. What they did, instead of doing showcases like that, they did like, all right, this is the Hall of Fame class. You get to play them, and it's like, here's one match from what they done. I feel like it's a great idea because I did like the way that they did the layout on 15, where you had two rivalries that you get to do, which was Cena Punk and then Shawn Michaels Triple H, and then go from there. And then they had the DLC like Orton Christian, the Hall of Fame, Ultimate Warrior. And so it's like, it makes sense.
And maybe I'm a bit biased with Christian like being one of my all-time favorites, but like I think maybe I'm a bit biased there because like I remember getting 2K15, hopping on and playing it, and he not being in the base game. Bro, I was so mad because like when I would hop in a universe mode and I'd change stuff around on the rosters, Edge and Christian were always a tag team and all this stuff, and neither one of them were in the base game. Man,
as an Edge fan, did you see how horrendous this model looked? And they still never got it right.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm just like, that's why I was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave it be. You know, it is what it is.
Maybe in 2K25 or 26, in a couple of years, something shifts and we get him back in another game.
I highly doubt it.
Yeah, me too.
I just have to cope with it now.
Yeah, you got to cope with cope, don't you? Well, anyway, the point of this question was meant to be, how did you said you started watching CW stuff in like 2005, 2006. When did you decide you wanted to get involved with the actual creating of a CW product?
Gosh.
Or does it all happen by accident and then years later you're here?
You find it accidentally, but then you get genuinely interested. There was a nice little league called Total Extreme Wrestling. It was ran by a guy. Been
hearing it a lot, yes.
Yeah. It was ran by a guy that you had on the show already. And I started watching that, I would say, around 2009. They were doing SVR 09 when I started watching. Watched for a little bit, and then they had it released a video of saying on the newest episode of Sacrifice, and it was their 2011 debut. And I was like, I wonder if they, because they said that they're online, and that they have characters that don't sound like the same person over and over again doing promos. Keep in mind, terrible on the Xbox 360 mic, but promos nevertheless. I was like, I wonder. So my message, and I was like, you guys do tryouts by chance? And somebody on the channel responded, we do. If you're interested, send us your gamer tag and we'll see what we can do. I said that without having an Xbox 360.
Mm.
I said so. I adamantly asked my mom and my stepdad, or I call him my dad. Hey, I want an Xbox 360 for Christmas, and SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. And they're like, okay. So I got an Xbox 360 that Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had the issue of, I need to figure out how to connect this to internet. So had it connected to like a Verizon hotspot at the time. Keep in mind, this is the end of 2010.
Trust me,
beginning
I
of 2011, and I'm doing this on a hotspot. It's a miracle it happened. But I eventually messaged like, hey, I got a 360. This is my gamer tag. Then like a week later, they respond like, yeah, we'll have somebody message you. And I had a tryout with a guy named Solus.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy who was helping Shannon at the time. He ran the second brand of the show that they had called Animosity.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried me out. Funny enough, I tried out with a completely different character. I have a even funnier story after that. But I tried out with a completely different character because I didn't know how to upload my Paint Tool logos onto the server at the time. I didn't figure it out until 2 weeks after that to upload them. So I actually had a character that I based off of, funny enough, full circle moment, Sunshine Kid in SWW. He's another great guy that I love talking to. He was he ran a show called the Dynasty Wrestling franchise that I watched a lot too. And I based a character off one of his guys that they had on the show. And did my tryout that way. And I got maybe like about 2-3 hours passed after that match. And I got a message saying, hey, you're in TXW. I was like, oh, okay. I was a 14-year-old kid, and I was like, all right, well, I was like, for someone who doesn't socialize, I'm gonna have to start socializing. And like even now as an adult, I'm still awkward, but you know, I'm kind of just who I am at this point. Very nervous, and you know, talking to people, and then that funny story was, I didn't get into TXW until 2011, like January of 2011. Mm-hmm. Ace Whistler debuted on screen in 2010 on their Tribute to the Troops before I even showed up. He was already on screen before I even got there. It happens because they made the character for somebody else at the time, and unfortunately that guy got into some trouble with them. He was pissing off people pretty much. And they're like, hey, we're going to take our character back then.
Real?
And they took the character back. And Shannon's like, you want to be Ace Whistler? I was like, I guess. And easily the best decision I made of my life, because I'm still Ace Whistler 14 years later. But yeah, it's so weird. And I tell that to people, like especially in the PC. Like when I'm talking to people, and I go, I'm such a rare case where my character was made for me, and then like after a year, that's when it became my own. Like I literally was like, I'd pitch ideas, saying, hey, can I do this? And they're like, oh, right now I'll just do this. Okay, so on and so forth. Like I viewed Shannon for like quite a bit of that time as like my boss. It's like, hey, you gave me this. What do I do? I remember asking him that question. I was like, what's Ace Whistler's gimmick? He's like, I don't know. You watch Dolph Ziggler? I was like, yeah. He's like, kind of like that. I was like, okay. And so that's how it started off.
I mean, hey.
But then I got to make the character my own, so on and so forth.
Which is when you're able to take, say for example, you're able to take a creator's idea and mesh it with your own ideas and create a unit. Yeah, that's when,
and that's why like I'm like forever grateful for Shannon saying something out of the whims like, "You want to be Ace Whistler?" And I was like, "I guess." I was like, I was like, I'm not good at making characters on this game right yet. And so
but yeah, well, you want to know? Funny.
mm-hmm.
Question 3 is, what's the story behind your car Ace Whistler?
Well, that's the story. The character was made before I even got there. I was given the character because somebody was pissing off people, and of the people who are running the show and the higher ups, pissing them off, and they gave me the character.
So, there in the archives of YouTube somewhere, there is a video from like 2010 of Ace Whistler with a different voice.
Oh no, it's not even a different voice. It's just a different guy playing him. Ace Whistler's first promo wasn't until I was already the character. So people wouldn't know that. But somebody was playing Ace Whistler in matches and stuff, because this is at the time where we played our own matches. You will know a significant change in Ace Whistler going from almost winning matches to absolutely getting demolished in matches. And that was when I started being the character.
It was a bad day.
Game. I wasn't, because this was back in the days of competitive, like back in the trenches of competitive, you know, and that's where I was not good at 2011, but I was damn sure made sure I was good in WWE 12.
I had to show improvement. Had to.
Pretty much, I had no choice. I had no choice. They gave me a title 6 months of me being caught. I was like, I don't know what to do.
You gotta have some sort of character development.
Yeah, it's either sink or swim, and I was like, I'm tired. I kind of like breathing.
So, now we're gonna get into some more recent stuff where Whistler's a bit more successful.
Yeah.
Bit more. Hang it squashed out here.
Yeah. Still an idiot though. Still an idiot.
So, this is question 5, where it's, what is your favorite match or moment or storyline that that you were involved in during Whistler's title reign?
Oh gosh, because I loved every story that I did with the title reign for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I love the story I did with Strider because, I wanted to help. I wanted to help Strider. Strider's been around for a long time, longer than I've been doing this. I've known him since I came in, and I wanted to do something that would help him because he was struggling. He's like, I don't know what to do. I was like, well, you know, the one thing he didn't have on the show was a single world title match. And I was like, cool. And you know what? We never did a Jack Strider Ace Whistler one-on-one match in TXW. I was like, so I'm still owed that. But I was like, dude, I'd love to work a program, you know. And then that's when, like, about the time he's like, I think I'm gonna turn heel. I was like, okay. He's like, you mind if I say this stuff to say that would help? He goes, actually, that'd help the story really well if you said that, you know, people pity me and don't respect me. That I'm just an old man. I was like, yeah. I was like, but I love that. I loved the Ragnarok story.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ragnarok was a mainstay in the Starlight division at the time. He just lost the belt at Into the Void, and I was like, okay, how do we? And I was like, I want to work Ragnarok, and they're like, how you got to do that? And I came up with the hairball idea of having a gauntlet match and him being in it. But the issue was we couldn't do a 5-person gauntlet. We had to figure out a 6. So it took me about a month, and then I was like, I had this idea. And I went in there, a couple of the guys are in there, and I was like, guys, I have a 6-person for the gauntlet match that we can do. And they're like, who? And I go, me. And they're like, oh, so your Rag's gonna lose? And I go, no, Rag's gonna pin me, because I haven't been pinned yet. And they're like, why? And I go, cause I haven't been pinned on the show yet. Let me get pinned on the show. Let me build them up that way. And then I was like, then, you know, and then we did a TLC match because I wanted to do a TLC match with Rag. I also loved working with the guy who voiced Rag. He's still one of my best friends today. Not many people know, but Garo voices Ragnarok. So I got to work with him for the first time. And one of the biggest compliments that we've gotten was the interview, the satellite confrontation before High Tides, where it was like it was 15 plus, and they're like, that didn't feel like a 15-minute plus segment, and I was like, cool. Did that. I loved helping build up people. Same situation with Angelo. I loved being able to work with Angelo. Angelo and I are best friends as well. You'll notice a lot of the people in production, actually, pretty much all of us are best friends, pretty much. And we're all close. And, I loved, like, hey, what are you thinking? Hey, okay, I loved getting together with him, coming up with ideas and spots and so on and so forth, because we really click, especially when it comes to making arenas. Like, he's like the guy who's like, hey, this is the idea I have, and he's the guy who kind of executes it. Like, not to spoil anything, but the On the Verge 2 arena is one of my favorite things that has ever been done.
I agree 100%. Have had some looks. I 100.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things that we've ever done, and even then, it's like I was like, Divinity was a phenomenal, and he's very much the backbone of that. He's the guy that, when it comes to stuff that's visually on the show, like the arena mods and stuff. Oh my god, he's our go-to guy. He's the guy who figures it out.
I absolutely love the poster idea that y'all have.
Thanks.
For that, like with Mercer in the arcade and all that.
Yeah, and I was like, I want to go back to basics. I want to do something simple, but I want to do something that's cool and flashy. I think I revealed it already in the SWW Discord. So if you look back, I think it's somewhere in there. But and then of course, like, me and Shannon. Like, God, me and Shannon have been trying to do this story for, what was it, about 7 years at that time, because we started in 2K17 with the story that we wanted to do. But unfortunately stuff happened, and we couldn't finish it, and so we were able to kind of go back into it a bit with Sinister with the Texas Deathmatch, and we were like, okay, this is pretty much it. So we're gonna have to do, this is it. And then stuff happened behind the scenes, like around violent composition and such. And Shannon and I just talked, and he goes, should we just do it again at Divinity? And I go, I think we should, because our stuff was like, both of our like original plans for that show were kind of in the water at that point. And so we're like, what if we just do this and everything? Like, there's a lot of stuff that changed behind the scenes. Like, we weren't originally like supposed to face each other at all, but God, I'm so thankful for, even though it was like, some of that stuff was rough, I'm so glad that we were able to get back to that story, and then to kind of like sand down the edges, make it less rough, and to kind of go into territories that both of us have never really gone to, which is more so of when we did the Whistler Shannon story. I was the face and he was the heel. But oh my God, in my opinion, it became such a better story once we flipped. And you're like, what happened? Like, if you really go to like Sinister and then you go to Divinity, it's like, how the hell did we get to here? Why is he not good now? Why is he a dick and he's good? And why is he trying to get him to retire? What's going on? And I'm so thankful, because it wasn't just like me that was involved. I'm a very, very firm believer of a feud in wrestling is a two-way street.
Agreed.
Your job as a person, I told this to people in the PC, it's like, your job as a person in a feud is to help the other person. Even though you're trying to beat them up on screen, your job is to help the other person get to a spot where they're better than they were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I didn't mind, like, getting pinned by Ragnarok. I didn't mind, taking these hits and like tides where it's like he's completely like off his game. I didn't mind like that. It's such a good story where you're you know, these are real people. Like these are, you know, these are characters, but they are, you know, they are human-like figures that are. So they you know, humans have flaws. Every character's got flaws. Nobody's perfect. So I loved being able to go with the flaw, like develop the flaws of the Whistler character fully, and translate it as like, hey, this is what I feel like goes. And I'm so thankful for the people that I worked with during that title reign, because they were as crucial to that title reign more than Ace Whistler was, because they were the ones that helped me get to that spot. So I always like, hey, every time, like, you know, every time, like, I told him, like, hey, thanks for doing this. I was like, I appreciate this a lot, you know. And so that's where I've always been that guy, though.
So I went back and actually before this rewatched the video package for the Shannon Whistler main event, and I saw like some of the promos got a little heavy, like between and I thought that fit the story really a lot, of like it getting like so controversial.
Oh yeah, and the funniest part is we'd send it to each other. It's like, hey, this is what I did, and we're like, sweet. They're like, that's awesome. And that was the funniest part. Is like we just kind of went back and forth. Like, hey, we always kind of checked. It's like, hey, this is cool if I do this. Hey, this is cool I do that. We're always open, but we've also have developed so much trust in each other over the years too, where it's like, hey, this is what I did. If you want to change anything, because I made scripts. That's what I kind of did for me and Shannon, but I didn't write as much stuff for him. I was just like, hey, this is the basis of what I'm working for, because we do scripts and everything too. And like, hey, this is what I got going right now. What are you thinking? This needs to change, but I really like where this is going. And then we just kind of worked on it for a little bit, and then we lined up a time. Like I lined up a time where I had the house to myself, so I could be a little bit more louder. Kind of, you know, do that promo. Shannon would do his, go back and forth, and I loved working with him, because Shannon is, I said it on the last Adrenaline, where he's a person that you that strives to bring your best, that you need to bring your best to, and I 100% like said that stuff as real as I could. It's like, hey, when you're working with Shannon, you do bring your best, because he brings out the best in you. He may not realize it, but he does. That's just because how he is. Because he's very good. He's done this for so long. He knows what he's doing, and he's very good at it.
I really enjoyed sitting down and being able to talk with him and being able to like, because he seemed like he was so comfortable having, and that's like what you look for, and you're even the same way. Like, y'all are comfortable in these like settings. Like, this is the first time me and you have ever conversated, and we
yeah,
sit
this
here
is
and talk.
legit. Besides, you messaged me on Discord saying, "Hey, we're gonna do this. If you want to do this," I was like, "Oh yeah." But like, him and I are kind of the same, where we kind of live for talking about behind the scenes stuff. We've always wanted to, but the issue is we didn't really figure out a way to do it. So having interview shows like this, and then like me, I've done shows like this before outside of CAW, where, you know, I was making graphics in backyard wrestling, and so we used to have shows like this where people would interview and we talk and bring up stuff and kind of go that, where I wasn't as involved. I just made like match cards and such, and that's where I got a lot of my practice from.
Actually, speaking of that, this is going to be a crazy thing. So I was deep diving into some SWW stuff, and Everett, I found one of Everett's old YouTube channels.
Yes.
From like way back in the day. And it has some background wrestling stuff. And there was a backyard wrestling match from years ago that involved Fuego and and Cameron Jackson, and I had saw that Everett had done some stuff with Cameron, and I was like, the fact that I remember watching the video Cameron would upload on the KBW channel and all that stuff way back in the day. The way that YouTube goes full circle, it seems like.
I made their last KBW logo that they used. The KBW Blood, Sweat, and Tears logo was one of the things I made for them because I was friends with Big Time Mike.
See, stuff like that.
It's crazy.
It's so crazy how stuff goes full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you never expect stuff like that to go full circle like that.
No, it's crazy. It's so weird. It's so weird on how frequent full circles happen sometimes.
So we've sat here. You've talked. We know the origins of Ace Whistler now.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see, if everything goes perfect with the story you want to tell and the story that SWW wants to tell, where do you see Ace Whistler 1 year's time, January 9th, 2026?
That's a very it's a very loaded question because there's so many things that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of things that I still want the character to do.
Mm-hmm. This could be for SWW too, if you want.
Yeah, however, I'm a very go with the flow individual.
Okay.
I've been at the mountaintop. I've won the world title, which was one of the bucket list things I wanted to do. Was hey, win a world title. I'm kind of now in that stage where it's like, wherever I want to just be like on screen, I want to be a nuisance, but off screen, I just want to help as much as possible. So if somebody needs that good little push, it's like, hey, he just needs somebody to work with. I have no issue being that person. I like working with people. I like to work with more people. It's actually one of the reasons why I became co-coach in the Performance Center with Cody Hale and Trial by Flight. Was I want to help people as much as I can now. You know, since now I've been there, I was like, all right, I think it's time where I could be able to give back. And so now I'm at this stage where pretty much anywhere I can thrive. As long I will make a story, or if somebody's got a story in mind, I'll be glad to be playing a part of it. I just want to do something and just have fun with it. That's the main thing for me. If I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it.
That's really how it should be with any form of content. Really, if so many people get into content for the wrong reasons nowadays.
I agree.
And if you're not having fun with content, or even as a person that my ADHD drives me crazy with stuff where I'll feel so interested in doing stuff one day, but I might not feel the interest in doing stuff the other day.
That's exactly how I am. I feel like I feel like it's instant gratification that people go for immediately.
Yes.
And honestly, it's not the way it works. Because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes quite a bit of will to do.
Now, I can also maybe playing a little bit of Demon on the Shoulder. I do understand the instant gratification. I do understand it because
I do too, but it can't be the driving force.
No,
I want to do this to be recognized. I want to do this to be so on and so forth. I feel like the way you should be doing it is fun should be always that top priority. You're doing it for fun, because honestly, we are such a niche. We're such a niche group in a niche that it is difficult to where there's that outreach where it's like, okay, I'm a wrestling fan, I'm a video game fan. Hardly anybody tries to correlate the two. It's like, I'm a wrestling video game fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like content creation now is at such a weird place where it is pretty much anybody that can dedicate the time can do it. If they have the resources and the time, they can absolutely do it.
In 2025, the resources are becoming easier and easier to come by. What used to be an expensive camera in 2015, 2014, it is still good quality, but isn't as expensive now.
Yeah,
So-
like the
so-
camera I'm using right now is a $60 camera and it's a Razer camera.
Like, the microphone I'm on is a Razer Mini, and
Yeah, I'm using a HyperX.
I was actually no lie was on Amazon a couple of days ago looking at that exact microphone.
I got this quadcast from a person at work because they're like, hey, I got a new mic because he was in music development. He was like, you want this one? He's like, I'll let you buy it for this, and so I bought it, and he gave me the works with it too. I used to have a boom arm until it took a chunk of my desk off. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need the boom arm anymore, so I just put on that. But yeah, like a lot of the resources now are more easier to get. It's where now it's more so towards the person to go, do I want to put the time into it? Do I want to put the effort into it? If they want to, but they want to have fun, I feel like that's where like I always tell people, you need to do it for fun. If you're trying to do this for anything else, you ain't getting it for a long time.
You're in the wrong. If you're trying to do it for any thing besides enjoying it, you're in the wrong niche. You're in the wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, dude.
like, go play like one of the like you were talking about the free to play like a Fortnite or a Call of Duty or.
It's like it's even
There's-
then. Video game content creation is a grind.
Yes.
No matter what you do. But you need to focus on having fun
Mm-hmm.
and learning how not to let it run you down.
Because
And that's where that work-life balance almost, you have to know what your balance is.
Because I've seen it so many times with creators where they like grow, and they finally get to a point where they're able to do something with it,
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't have the drive to do it anymore because they've
Yeah,
uploaded.
it took so long for them to do it.
Yeah, like you got to
Yeah.
think some of the main guys were uploading 1-2 videos a day for 3 years before they blew up, and now their drive's killed because of that. Like
but it's also a lot of the times is like just like content within itself in this day and age is vastly different than it was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It's going to be vastly different than what's going to be 10 years from now. So it's one of those things. It's like once you figure out what you want to do and you want to do it. But understand that there's some people that will do it. Like I knew some people personally that was like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's like, okay, do it. And then they get not even after their first video that they made, I don't like this anymore. I was like, well, yeah, because, there's some people that thrive for content creation. And then there's some people that, they want to, but they just aren't able to. Like, honestly, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not an editor. I don't edit anything. I mainly work on graphics and so on and so forth. If I was an editor, I would be having a rough time. Plain and simple. But then there's people that thrive on that, where they're able to do that. They're able to focus on that. They're able to drive and have that passion still for that. And I give them all the credit.
And that's one thing, like, it's become, I don't want to say it's become easier, but it definitely like, there are tools that makes what I do. I know what y'all do is, like, with the modded stuff and the way more highly edited, like, stuff. Y'all's product is way more advanced because y'all have, like, we do, like, more frequent uploads, but it's, like, the reason that is because it's way less production going into it. And it's so, and that's one thing I was talking with Shannon about, is I've got to get better. The more people interested in watching your stuff, you've got to ramp up production and do more stuff that were like, hey, I haven't seen that before. Hey, I haven't seen that before.
And like that's a thing we like at first when we started SWW. SWW was a vastly different product than what it is now. It takes a lot of time, but we also have quite a number of people in our production. that do different things.
'Cause
like me, I do graphics. I mainly work on like the logos of the show, nameplates, location plates, the basis of like arenas. Shannon is an editor. He's a match recorder. He's a segment recorder. He books. We all kind of take turns booking, but we all kind of book. I focus more on my stuff. It's like, hey, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have an opinion about something, I let them know. It's like, hey, this is what I'm thinking of. Then you have Trey Mercer is a part of our production as well. He's a fantastic script writer. So he works on scripts and he works on segments of the show. Then we have Cody Hale. They do also segments. They book pretty much a good portion of the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
So on and so forth. Angelo, he books, he edits, he records matches. He is kind of like my guy with graphics as well, and arenas and so on and so forth. Everybody does their own thing in our production, and that's why I feel like it runs so well. Too,
and see, that's kind of that's the thing I really kind of going behind the lens a little bit. That's one thing I have to improve on as a creator is being okay with transferring responsibility of something that because like UKW, the designs, the logo, everything from match recordings, everything except for commentary, because commentary is done with two of my friends. Mm-hmm. Everything else is, while I might have ideas from somebody else or something, or like we're sitting in a Discord call with a share screen open talking about the stuff and all this different stuff. Majority of the stuff is me, and I have to be more willing to trust somebody to do other stuff.
Yeah, and that was the big thing. That was the big focal point for SW is we used to have one person that was kind of like our be-all, end-all mm-hmm. of booking and such. And once we kind of got rid of that, it made stuff so much easier. Or we all kind of are it's like, hey, we are all focal points. We are all gears in this machine. But we all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. And that's where, it's up to us as a team. It's like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to focus on. I'm usually one of the first people done because I honestly, compared to everybody else, since I don't edit. Oh, excuse me. I don't edit. I don't record or anything. My stuff I can pretty much do. Once I get a concept going, I have concepts like in the book. Like, I kid you not, I'm already pretty much finished with On the Verge 2 graphics. Like match cards, aim plates, location plates, and all that. I'm usually the first one done. But then I will go back. It's like, okay, what do I need to fix up? And do that. And then just kind of go back and fill the spaces. But then I'll go, okay, I have some free time. I'm going to work on a concept for, like, let's say, a different live spec. Or, okay, I want to do something along the lines of this on the show. Let me work on something like that. But once we became, like, a table, in a sense, mm-hmm. that's where it helped a lot. It helped a lot.
And that's one thing Shannon brought up is, like, how it's, like, a very group effort. And that's one mm-hmm. thing I have to be okay with relinquishing some of the responsibility for some stuff. But
yeah, and it's not especially if we're gonna ask for help.
Especially if we're gonna because especially since the Shannon interview. And by the way, I know you're probably gonna watch the Shannon. I very much still appreciate I want to say. Massive thanks for Shannon because he's one of the reasons we hit 400 and everything. I'm very appreciative.
Well, congrats on that, by the way.
But lost my train of thought. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, but like once we went to a group effort, it made things a lot better, and it became a lot more rewarding too.
And that's like, if I want to be able to take UW where I want it to go, and I do think as a base product, if we can improve mm-hmm. in production, I think I have good quality ideas that can be unique.
Yeah, it's that fact of one of the things that's difficult to do is to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
But you also need to know the right people to trust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and luckily we're at that stage where everybody trusts everybody in that spot.
Yeah.
And we all know what we're doing. But it takes time. You're not gonna be able to have that. And there are instances where one person sees one thing and another person sees another.
Yeah.
And you know, but we don't let that like kind of stop us. Like we go, okay, let's work through this really quick. Let's work through this. What can we do? And go and do that. It's like it's a cohesion thing, you know. Sometimes at times it's gonna get difficult. You know, everybody's got different work schedules with us. Like I work on the weekends, so I'm not around on the weekends. And there's some people that are, there's some people that aren't. But we all kind of line up and it's like, hey, this is the date that we're aiming for right now. We're gonna try to get as much of this done. But at the same time, if something happens, like we had an instance over a year, over a year where my mom passed away in the middle of us doing production, and luckily I had my stuff done, but I still had like a segment. So they like, hey, don't worry about it once it gets there, you know. So I had about it it took a bit to be honest, but they were, you know, there's stuff that happens that's out of our control where it's like, okay, we're gonna delay it. But like I'm eternally grateful that they didn't even have to, but they're like, hey, but they were all close. They were so nice. Not many people know, but they even like sent flowers after to me, and I've never forgot that since. But like they're friends. You know, we're all best friends there.
And that's one thing.
And
and I know
one thing you kind of have to look for too.
And that's one thing I know they're going to be watching this in Valentine, Dakota. I'm massively grateful because we've been friends for 10 plus years too. So, like, with the three of us, they weren't as big into the cost, like, at all before we got into it. So that's kind of the worrisome thing for me is I don't know if they truly know what they're getting into when.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is it's very hard to describe. Funny enough, there is a guy in the PC who never watched wrestling who joined the PC before he ever even watched wrestling. I'm not going to divulge his identity, but he never watched wrestling, and it was shocking for me to know that. I was like, so you joined this before that? He goes, yeah, I thought it was cool. He's like, I've never watched wrestling. It just hopped in as recommended. I was like, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
How did you get recommended a wrestling? All right, YouTube algorithm does something crazy.
YouTube got us a good one. I love that dude. That dude's great. He's one of the funniest people too. And he's a great guy.
But like, and that's where I feel like some people have their own unique things. Like, some people are really just good at commentary. Like, and everybody does their own thing. Like, you seem to be really good with graphics. From what you sent me earlier, I can't divulge on the podcast what it is, but
it takes years. It takes years.
Mr. Whistler now has his stamp on the UKW brand. Hostile takeover Whistler.
Don't tell them. It's not so hostile after you telling them, "Hey, I'm taking over." But,
but yeah, I really have appreciated having you on. I really do.
Yeah, dude, anytime. I appreciate you even asking me.
No, cause you not gonna lie, you were you and Shannon were the first two people I wanted.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And the series.
And Shannon's like, you have to get him because he doesn't shut up.
He did say that, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I know.
But actually, really, I really like how this is all going. And before I forget, because I was genuinely about to forget, we've got some of the SWW Discord questions to get into.
Oh yeah, we got some good ones on there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I asked them literally 2 hours before we did this.
So, you know that WWE is now featured on Netflix, and according to Netflix, it was viewed by 5 million people. Episode 1. That's more than any Raw in recent history, I believe. That blows that out of the water. So, do you think that in turn is going to show increase in Call RE feds with more popping up or more viewers popping up? Because I think those two go together.
I feel like it goes hand in hand, yes.
Yes.
A person that makes a CAW show always starts off as a CAW viewer.
Yes.
Nowadays. I feel like, it's going to get more eyes, especially on, like, I feel like it's going to get more eyes at first on the WWE product, but then once they start hawking out, like, you know, the W2K25 commercial, people are like, oh, they make video games. I didn't know. And then they're going to buy the video game. And then people are going to look up the video game. And then they're going to go, what's this SWW Adrenaline Season 2 Episode 1? Huh. This looks like it uses the game. Okay, let me look at that. You know, or it's like, let me look at this UKW episode. And, you know, they'll look through, and then some people are like, I really like how they do that. That's cool. You know what? I'm going to pick up the video game and make my character. And then they'll make a character. And then if they go like, okay, you know what? I kind of want to do what they're doing. But I want to, rather not like me doing production stuff, like I want to get my character on the show. That's how it always starts off. How can I get my character on the show? Then they will ask the question. We do have like our SWW Performance Center that we do, where it's $10. You join, get into the Performance Center chat. There's 4 camps to choose from. I co-coach with Cody Hale for Trial by Flight, which I know is hilarious looking at it in character spec. Where, you know, you get to choose your camp, and then we help you go through like the stages of making a CAW, helping you kind of figure out what identity you want to go for. I'm very much on a where I wish I had that when I was starting, when I was making characters.
Same.
Like I was lucky where they just kind of gave me a character. We don't do that. We want to make sure that people are involved with their character, because this is what they are going to be. And I'm a firm believer that there has to be a little bit of you in the character for it to work. If there isn't, then it doesn't. It feels lifeless, in my opinion. And it could be just like an aspect of yourself as a person. Hell, as like when I work as a heel, I take aspects of other people that I just don't like and put them in that. Or, you know, so on and so forth. And, you know, just I feel like you have that kind of like that base of who you are, and you have that understanding. Then we help you develop a moveset. But it's one of those things where, where we just want to help. That's what we want to do. And if you want that help, you're more than welcome to join the Patreon, join the Performance Center. Hell, there's other cool benefits in that too. Like we do like early episode sneak peeks as we are kind of developing through the episode. There's some stuff like, you know, we're kind of talking about like revamping a little bit. But we just want to help. And if people want the help, that's the way that they can reach us. If they want to be on the show, that's the best way. We have Rush that takes place, I think right now we do it about every other Saturday, just because we now are back onto working on adrenalines and blitzes and such. But our Rush brand is something that we are very proud of. We're very proud of the people that are involved in there. We've gotten a lot of cool people through that. We saw some call-ups on Adrenaline 1 where you saw Scar Hendricks. You You saw Yamashita on Blitz. You saw Kareem Honey Badger Hall. You saw Kareem Honey Badger Hall, who was the winner of the Starlight Sweet 16 tournament that we did on Rush. Beat Cayman Blanco Jr. on the season premiere of Blitz, and now is the Starlight champion. And there's more to come for that too. Like, we already are talking with other people. It's like, hey, just to give you a heads up, you're coming up too, so on and so forth. It's a great way to hone in your skills, learn on what this is about, and then when you get up there, gosh, we have fun. And that's what I love. I love that even still after all these years, we've been doing this for about, I think on the verge will be 6 years in June. Something like that. 6 years in July or June, somewhere around that, during the summer. But like, when we're still having fun with it. We're still having a good time. There's still, we still are hanging out with people. I see like the performance center right now. There's people in there chilling in the lounge. They do watch parties of SmackDown, NXT, Raw, pay-per-views. They do that in there. I like to pop in, just talk with them. We've been playing Marvel Rivals. That's been the big game in the performance center right now.
It's been the big game everywhere.
So it's like Florida Man, my boy Remy. Mm-hmm. We'll play. I'll go in there. I'm watching. Everybody now knows that supports are OP as hell in this game, so everybody plays them. So now I get stuck as Vanguard, even though I started off as DPS, and everybody wanted to play DPS, so I got stuck to support. And it's just like the Overwatch, pretty much how Overwatch was at first. But like, we all have a good time, and I love the way that it's turned out. Just because we got to meet a lot of cool people through it.
Yeah, and even like Shannon said on last episode, like when you're doing call content, you have to be okay with expanding your stuff out. Like that's why I was so interested in doing Creator Insight, is because the UKW episodes are roughly, we try to shoot for once a week.
Yeah.
Which is talking about the lower production and stuff like that. That's why we're able to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we're doing Creator Insight, once again shooting for every Sunday. So with that being said, it's when you're doing just call content, you're just uploading one video a week. Yeah. It's harder to meet certain like ideas of where you want the channel to go.
Yeah.
That's why you got to do other stuff that might branch out. Like, I could see the more and more we do Creator Insight, inviting like other people that might not be CAW based, like maybe people that are like actual pros that might be interested in coming on and talking about like their life on the indie scene or something like that. I feel like stuff like that.
I feel like it's when you want to go to like Creator Insights, there's so much more to what we do than is on screen.
Yes.
Like a lot of us take inspiration from not just like wrestling. Like a lot of the stuff that I take inspiration from, like my character wise, I take from music, take from movies, take from pop culture. That's how I am. We are and there's some people that take aspects of just all around. Like hell, you can talk to people that stream daily, but they stream different games. They're like a variety streamer. They will have such a different insight, but they'll still have that corresponding message of if you want to put the work in, put the work, but make sure that you are having fun, but you also prioritize yourself too.
See, what I will say, and I do agree with this, is I really think that more people would be fans of the CAW space and the CAW world if more people knew of it. So, and that's because I don't think everybody that has watched wrestling grew up thinking, I'd love to do that. Whether people grew up and said, nah, never mind, or just went on with life. I don't know anybody in the real life wrestling business. So the chances of me being a booker are very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
CAW Universe Mode gives me a chance to book as much of a realistic product as I can.
Yep.
It's
And
not
that's the thing.
It's not that it's as realistic to real life, but it's as realistic as you could get to a real life product.
Yeah. And like that's where like I could never be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
But this was just something that just was a creative outlet for me.
Yeah.
And it just combined, it was another, I love pro wrestling. It was just a creative outlet of one of the things that I loved in life. And I love to watch. And that's why it just became this thing where it's like, now it's like, I didn't realize how much it would help me improve on stuff. Like CAW kind of helped me become a better like story writer, a better talker. I could, like, to be honest, like if you asked me about 6-7 years ago to do this, I probably wouldn't have my face cam on to talk. Just because, like, when it came to that, I wasn't as great of a storyteller as I am now.
And that's one of the things I'm so much. That's one of the things I'm so much more happy with. Yeah, we've been sitting here for a minute.
Oh, dude, yeah, my that's just me in general. Like, I just like I've been sitting in the chair pretty much all day.
Me too. I've been working on graphics and stuff. Like I said, Wild Card's coming up. By the way, tune in Wild Card. We as creators have to find our creative outlets, however it be, and I think that, like, especially for Tyler Drake, which is the call that I signed up to SWW with recently.
Okay.
He very much plays a heel, and is an absolute d-bag, like on an ultimate level.
Yeah.
I'm not that person in real life.
Well, yeah, I hope not.
Would love to be in some situations.
Well, yeah.
And that gives me the ability to be able to be that in certain situations, and it's able to feel a creative outlet. But
yeah, it's such a great thing too. It's such an odd thing to look at the outside at. But then when 100%. You get into that aspect and you get in, it's like oh okay, I see why people do this. Like I didn't realize how much fun I would have had, like I had at first, like when I joined CAW, a lot of times was Xbox 360 parties galore. You only were able to talk to up to 7 people, 8 people, including yourself. And then, back then, SVR 2011 was fun as hell because of the weapons physics and all that. So we all played matches and such. And then they put the YouTube app on Xbox, and then we'd watch stuff on the YouTube app, or we'd watch stuff on Netflix, so on and so forth. Like, I didn't realize how much fun outside of doing like the show would be, like outside of having matches and such like that. Like CAW gave me so much in terms of friends.
Agreed.
And it's just like it's so I can't put a price on it. It's so invaluable to me because those friends that I made are like my best friends today. Like I had such a good time doing stuff. I loved messing around. Like on the I was like, okay, we're not working on show stuff. What are you guys doing? It's like, oh, we're playing Saints Row 2. We're playing Saints Row 2 online. Or it's like we're playing like Gears of War 3. Gears of War 3 was like my second. That's all I did my second summer in TXW was play Gears of War 3. Or just having so much fun and then having late nights talking with everybody. Like I would
That-
be up there
that's-
until 2, 3 in the morning.
That's what I love the most about being able to do this with the guys I do it with is it's not while good stuff happens in the recording sessions, it's after the recording sessions when it's 2, 3 in the morning and you're just talking and people like that's when the most raw, true feelings come out about.
Oh yeah, it's the stuff I like. I live for like in our production like server that we have. We watch movies sometimes. I kid you not. There was a member of production. He's like, I've never watched the full Lord of the Rings movie. We made him watch all of them. And then there's times where I watch like old Godzilla movies in there.
Like we
and
just
this will be in the afternoon.
we just watched the new Mufasa movie not too long ago. Like,
oh, nice.
So like stuff's we do very similar things, and I guess
we watch like the pay-per-views and such, and ours like we'll like also we'll just be dumb and we'll watch like dumb YouTube videos, you know, just for the hell of it, and you know we'll just all laugh, have a good time, and that's the stuff like I truly live for in CAW. Is it's not the stuff that you will see on screen, but it's the stuff that's off screen that I live for. Like just having conversations with people. Like I was in the PC. I don't know if it was last night or the night prior. I think it was last night. No, it was the night prior, where I was up until like midnight talking with them, and they were just like, "Hey, you know, we're just talking about stuff. We talked about comic books. We talked about movies, horror movies, and then we were talking about like, hey, what's things that you know in CAW that you wish people knew how to do." And I go, I wish that people would be more real. You know, people like, you know, it's like, hey, like this is a character I'm portraying. This is a character, you know, this is the character I have. But you know, this is me, who I am as a person. You know, I can have a real conversation with pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
As long as they're real. And like, I love talking. I love going into that PC chat, talking with them. You know, because they're great company, and they're all there to have a good time. They're all having a good time. I love enjoying the good time, you know, and that's where once everybody realizes that behind the character is another person, that's where it's like, okay, you know, we're kind of doing the same thing. It's like everybody has a common ground somewhere. It's up to people to, you know, find it sometimes. And I had a tough time talking to people for a long time.
That's kind of the thing that, and I'll thank Shannon and you for this, and anybody else on the SWW crew. I truly don't know where UKW would be if I wouldn't have stumbled across y'all's videos years ago, because I originally was doing it as like just live streaming, playing universe mode matches with my friends' calls in the universe mode and stuff, and it has turned like seeing what y'all have done and being able, I started a whole new channel, being able to fully take what y'all did and incorporate it into trying to make a simulation based product has made it like a full different level where I feel like there's story stuff I can call back to years, like months down the line of stuff I did months ago, and then I'm starting to get to a point where people pick up on it because enough people are watching that have watched for that period of time, and that's what used to kill me is like you feel like only you picked up on certain things, but now with enough people watching, more people are starting to pick up on these things, and you're starting to get the credibility.
Oh, yeah. It's such a great feeling. It's such a great feeling, especially when it's something nuanced. It's something that's not, you're like, it's, you know, you kind of have it intentionally be like, okay, kind of hiding this in there, and just to see if people pick it up. I love doing stuff like that. But like that's also like the thing that we love about what we do is we get to help inspire people to do stuff like that, and that's, you know, we're doing it to have fun. but like a back product of that is as well is to, if people are like, hey, I don't know how this is working, you have a nice like strobe light effect going on.
Yeah,
But,
I wish I knew it was doing that. There we go.
but that's a thing that we never kind of took into consideration was, you know, you are going to inspire people. And I love that. It's like, hey, I loved getting like where people like, dude, that's so cool. We want to do something like that of our own, so this is what we did. And I loved it. I love seeing that. Like when I saw like at the thumbnail at first, and I like, you know, I see it get posted on Discord. I was like, I know they watch us. Besides us being, you know, there's some people that hopped in our Discord server that watched one episode and that was it. They never watched another one of our episodes again. They're just there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some people that like adamantly watch, and then it's like, hey, we take inspiration and stuff, and that's where I love it. What I truly live for in terms of that is when people do that, but they do stuff that we didn't even get to think of, and they get to do it.
And like,
you know, or that they put their own, like, it's like, you like, I love this recipe that you made for this, but I did do some modifications and made it this way instead. I love that stuff. That stuff's great.
And I've tried to, like, besides, I think a couple of times with Andre, a dude in the PC, who's had a couple matches on Rush. He was our main world champion, the title belt I showed you earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a couple references to him being in Catch 22.
Okay.
But besides that, I haven't really made a lot of references because I didn't know how y'all felt about stuff like that. If I'm being 100%.
And like, I've always been that person. I do not ignore what people have done on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
There's instances where it's like, okay, if there's only people that watch this, okay, they're gonna be they won't know who, you know, this person is or what this is.
Mm-hmm.
But down the line, you can sprinkle in the stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like the best way is if you're gonna do it, just do it. Just like acknowledge, hey, this is where else they have been. There's some people that are very protective of like, hey, no, we just want them to be associated with this.
Yeah.
But at this day and age, it's kind of hard to do.
And like that's what I was gonna say. With it's such a blurred line, especially with community creations. Especially, it's a blurred line because I've heard many different creators say that they feel like if anything's uploaded to community creations, that's free use, and I don't know how
it's free game.
And I don't know how people, some call like creators, feel differently about that.
Mm-hmm.
And you get something off community creations and you use it. Say for example, you use a championship and you modify it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then somebody finds out that you're using their design, they might not be too happy with it. But
Correct.
Then they put it on community creations. It's a very blurred line. And
yeah, it is. It's very difficult. And I'm gonna say that it is extremely difficult. Because there are instances where, you know, people upload their characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a message saying, hey, you know your guy was in this? And I was like, no. I had an instance where that happened. Where my guy was used in a different show. And I didn't know about it until months later. And so it's just like, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, this happened. And I was like, well, that was by the time where, you know, I was kind of done with CAW for a little bit. So I was out of the loop. And I left my guy up there. And so what I do now is like, if people are adamant about, you know, hey, we'd like you to be this, all they have to do is message me. All they have to do is just like, hey, we're interested in having you do this. you want to. That's up to you. Luckily, with the platform that we have now, more people know where Ace Whistler is from, like what Ace Whistler's on. But that's where it is tough. It is very tough, especially with community creations, because people, once it's uploaded, people assume, hey, I'm gonna pick it up. It's not a private thing. I feel like that's what's gonna happen. I feel like if they want to do, I feel like that's the thing that 2K can do. Is that if they want to, they could make it like, hey, private download, where it's like friends only, like only friends can download this, so they recognize accounts and stuff, But I don't know if they'll ever do that. So it's such a very fine line now. But it's a lot more common for people to be in multiple places today. And
that's like, because I've noticed this more and more recently, we have a little bit of roster crossover. And I think stuff like that is cool. Because I feel like... I do too. Because I feel like I can make ties. Like, one of the biggest storylines going on right now in UKW, and I don't want to go like too much into like stories and stuff. One of the big storylines going on is Andre recently came back. He's been on the shelf for a little bit. Okay. And he came back with some SWW guys, and on Orlando Silver and Leon Cruz.
Okay, yeah, both left-hand path guys.
Yes.
Okay.
And they formed the upper echelon.
Okay.
Because SWW is viewed as like the high show, and they're all there, so they're the upper echelon.
Okay.
It's.
I get you.
Yeah, and
and stuff like that. It's a great base to go off of too. It's like, hey, these three are in a different company together. And it's like, cool, put them together, and that's their tie. Stuff like that's great too, and it helps. It helps storyline wise too.
Yeah, and it's like, it's no different than like a real life independent circuit.
Correct.
Like, for example, say you have guys from a small promotion like a DPW, and then they go to like a TNA. TNA is a bigger promotion than DPW, so you could have them three guys from the same promotion be a team. It's the same thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and
like I view it on that same line. I absolutely agree with the point. So, and I feel like it's such a great base, but the thing is, you don't want to over rely on a different place. It's the best way I can explain it. You don't want to over rely on the reason why they're doing this is because of that place. That place wants that, so on and so forth.
You got to use it as... You have to make it
on your own. All it is it's seasoning. That's what it is. It's a little bit of seasoning. It's not the main ingredient in your pot. You've
got to use it as like, this is why they're a thing, but why are they here?
Yes.
Yes. Like...
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Because nobody's gonna be interested in watching your stuff if somebody else is getting mentioned all the time.
Correct. And that's a big thing. Is
because
if you're gonna keep mentioning something that
they're just gonna go watch them.
Exactly. And that's why I adamantly tell people, it's like, hey, if you're doing this, make sure you make it your own. Because if you're just gonna do this, what's the point of you doing that when they could just go and watch it over there?
And that's what I think could really be interesting. Especially like there's places for it, but like you said, you can't over rely on it.
Yeah, correct. And I feel like that's where it just becomes like, okay, then they're talking about them so much. Why aren't I watching them?
Yeah. Especially somebody that hasn't watched them before.
Correct.
Which...
It's good to like, hey, they're in this place too. But, this is what they're doing here.
And also, like, going back to, like, ties different places, it's so hard to keep gimmicks similar.
Yes.
In same places. Let's just say, for example, the Ace wrestler you would get in an SWW might not be the ace wrestler you would get in a RXW, some random name.
Yeah, so like there's another place that I started doing stuff at, and I was R-Pro, Relentless Pro. And even though it's like the same basis, I'm going off of a different thing with my character. Where it's not, I'm not telling the same story. I'm telling an SWW that I'm telling over there. I'm telling a different story. However, my characteristics are still involved. You know, I have an entirely different story over there, but I'm doing this over here. The common ground is the character. You know. Yeah. And I feel like that's where a lot of the issues arise. Sometimes it tends to happen where people will tell the same story at one place and they'll tell that exact same story at the other place.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, now you just tell the same story and your character is just one story.
Yeah. Which, like, not being super critic of WWE's product is kind of the issue that they're having with Cody, in my opinion, right now. Is like he's become so much of like I haven't been the biggest fan of his world title reign because of that same thing.
Well, and I feel like we actually had a long discussion about this in our production the other night, where that's the big issue with babyface champions now. Is the road to get there is a lot sweeter than the reign that they get, because all baby faces now operate under this I'm going to challenge people that haven't faced for the title, but I'm not doing any long feuds with it. And that's the issue. Is like there's like, okay, I beat this person, I'm on to the next person, so on, so on, so forth, so forth. Mm-hmm. And that's where, you know, it is much easier for a heel to be champion, because it is a much sweeter story for a babyface to beat that guy.
Yeah.
But the real challenge is once you get that title with the babyface, where you go from there. You don't want to be that, like, everybody wants to be that fighting champion. Mm-hmm. But what you have to figure out is the stories you want to tell. Mm-hmm. But you can't have the same story for everything, and that was the issue with Cody's reign. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a majority of Cody's reign did not have to do with anything for the world title. If you look at it, his title reign from 40 to Bad Blood was not even about him. It was about when Roman's coming back and first facing this new bloodline. And then now you're looking at it now, and it's still being referenced of you're just friends with Roman, so I'm going to beat you up with Kevin Owens. However, what I like that WWE is doing now is their heel turns are reasonable. Yeah. You're like, if you're in that same position, I'd be pissed off too. Yeah. You know? And that's where the issue resides. You can't keep having the same story with baby faces and have that all the time. Another great example of that, where the road to the title was better than the reign, was Hangman Adam Page in AEW.
Yeah. And getting back to where you talking about with like CEWs going from place to place, I even think like if you're in the same place, you can't tell the same story the whole time.
No. You can in premise.
Because
if it's a part of a character evolution is the way I go about it.
So like
you can tell the same story in like premise, but it is your details that help define that. And some people won't ever see like what the premise is, because there's so much stuff going on with it too.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of simplicity, and telling the same story over and over again, not a good way to go things. Because then you just become a one-story individual, and that hurts your character in the long run. They're like, oh, this dude's gonna fight this dude. That means this is the story that they're gonna go with.
And see, this has also been an issue. And I don't know if it's something that Shannon, or I don't even know if do you do any of the commentary for SWW at all?
I don't, but there are, but I know everybody that does.
Okay. So, the issue I've had, like, because Tyler Drake's in UKW, and, like, in the roster and everything, and has been in title pictures and stuff like that, and stuff, and I voice his promos. But I also am the main guy for commentary, and the voice, like, I don't do any voice modification for the two. Mm-hmm. So I've always wondered, like, is that an issue because you're voicing both a character and then another?
So, when it comes to that aspect, all it depends on is tone and inflection. I voiced an entirely different character on the show that nobody would pinpoint that I would be able to voice this character unless I said one word. Hey! Nobody knows that I voice Cancer as well. I do that as well. There's a lot of us that do multiple voices on the show. Garo, he voices not just Garo, he voices Vinny Vigo. He voices Ragnarok. He voices Frank Graham. He voiced who else? Let's see, Bruno Caldwell. Just to name a few. Everett Creed voices him. Lips Jack Thomas.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that voice multiple characters on the show, and what you have to find is, especially if you're doing commentary, and then your character is just your regular voice, what it is on the hindsight is where you can tell clearly. It's like, okay, yeah, they're doing commentary. This is the promo in the ring. People won't see that, people will see that difference. Okay, this is in ring promo. Okay, this is them on commentary. A lot of times I feel like people are a lot more lenient now, too, where they know that one person does that does a promo in the show. They may do another thing on there. It's all up to the person that voices them to kind of figure out how it goes. Like, Whistler with me is me, but there's some instances where me kind of growling with some of the words and such, especially with being angry and stuff, like doing that in promos. That's where I divide Whistler from myself. Mm-hmm. And then Cancer, on the other hand, is an entirely different voice, but it is like me just being annoying at that point. That's where I feel like it's up to the person to find out what your difference is and then capitalize. I don't view it as an immersion breaking thing.
Yeah.
I know there's people that worry about that. I feel like we're in a day and age where it's like, okay, they're doing commentary. I know that there could be a character in the show.
Yeah.
And then they it's like, okay, that's fine. I feel like don't overthink it and don't go into it too hard. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, I always view everybody is their own worst critic too.
Yes.
I am my own worst critic. I'll go back and I'll look at stuff that I've done, and I ain't happy with it.
Same.
And then I'll have people tell me I really love what you did with this, and then you don't have the heart to say, hey, I've been saying I hated this for 7 months now, but I'm glad you liked it. But, you know, that's where, at the end of the day, that's up to you to decide, but it's not good to overthink it, because if you overthink it, then you overcomplicate it, and you have made it more of a mess.
Than it ever had to be.
You made a mess of, you made more of a mess than it didn't have to be. Or you made a problem out of something that wasn't a problem.
So, guys, I've really enjoyed sitting here talking with Ace, and actually, we've almost doubled the time of Shannon's interview, so...
It's because I talk too much. I'm sorry. If we ever need to run this back, we will.
That's what I was just about to say, that because I said the same thing with Shannon.
Doing that.
I said the same thing with Shannon, and he said he would love to run it back down the road later on.
Yeah, so, just say the word and just let me know. Hell, I'll love to do one with Shannon. If you want to do both of us, you know, that's fine too.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
We'll probably talk about more like what we did for maybe our like the stuff that we did like
for Divinity
with us. Yeah, we'll probably talk more about that stuff that.
I would love to do that stuff. Actually.
That'd be I'd love to do that with him too, because him and I talk about that stuff for hours.
All right, guys. Well, here to announce that Dakota and Valente, the two guys I do commentary with, will be on episode 3 next Sunday. So make sure to check that episode out. Won't be getting the SWW stroke that week.
Sorry, we're pulling it out. No, but you have guys that deserve recognition as well. So yes. Definitely, I highly recommend. Definitely get those people. Get as much insight as you can.
So, hope you enjoyed this episode of Creator Insight. That's been Edge Whistler. I'm Cass, and we're out. That's it, guys.